Attention, salute, and pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you both. Okay, if I can get a motion for consideration of meeting agenda, please.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Discussion? Let's vote, please, Jennifer.
Voting's open.
I ain't got it. Yes.
Mr. Riddle, how do you
Yes.
vote? All agree.
Thank you. Okay, next is public comment. I don't think no one had signed up for tonight. If I get a motion for approval of meeting minutes, please.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Discussion? Let's vote again, please, Jennifer.
Open. All agree.
Thank you. Turned over Mr. Boyd for announcements.
Just a variety of announcements. You can see dates upcoming and some past county commission meetings. I think after last night's action on the tax levy, I believe there's a public hearing on the 13th. It's not listed here for public comment on the commission's intent. And then June 20th is, I believe, when they're scheduled to vote on it. So just for your awareness. We did have a HUE committee meeting. We didn't have any items on the HUE committee, the county commission's health, education, welfare committee. We did give some updates. Both superintendents were there. Dr. Barnett and myself just give them some updates on various school district items. Board workshop, the scheduled board workshop that's for the July regular meeting, that is actually on the second week of July, is on Tuesday the 25th of June. Just for your full awareness, I'm scheduled to be at a Superintendent's Leadership Institute at the end of June, from June 26th to June 28th. And then as far as updates, various items for your full awareness and public record, the enrollment update, which includes, in the enrollment update, I did add some updated numbers from this week's summer school. We have approximately 480 students in attendance at our two sites, Gray and Jonesboro Elementary School. So summer school's off. The first day, transportation we had to work some kinks out on the first day with transportation, but by today we've gotten to where we need to be. But summer school the next several weeks at those two sites.
Is there a specific number, like a third or fourth grade, or is it all spread out?
No, both schools have all grades.
Yeah, but I mean, it's concentration more of a certain.
The grades
Okay.
K through 3 is the largest
Okay.
enrollment. For rising kindergartners, there's a summer school session, and also for those that are moving into the K1 and 2, K through 3 grades, the third graders that go to summer school to move on to fourth grade upon completion of summer school.
Okay.
Those are and then we have some in fourth grade. So really K through 4 is the largest concentration of students. Yes, ma'am.
Question. Did we find many of the third graders who retook the test? Were they successful?
We had 22 that retook and went from below or approaching to met or exceeded. We had one student that went from approaching to exceed, and then the other 21 went just from approaching to met. So then they met all requirements based on that performance, on that retake to move on without having to go through an intervention through summer school.
Thank you.
Field trips, just, you know, it's a little, obviously a lot thinner field trips in the summer, but there are some scheduled. Some are even later because they're overnight because of summer camps and competitions in some of the high school programs. So those will come up later for board consideration. All of those field trips, of course, don't require board approval. And then as you, the monthly link on the facility tracker, there has been a request to maybe if we can look at doing some modifications or some customization to add more detail, and we'll work with Heath and others back here to figure out if we can do that with that platform. And then Mr. Hale has all the financials that were reviewed at the last workshop. If you have any, that's certainly, they've been reviewed that are here, but if you have any questions, always feel free to reach out. Personnel report does contain all of the activity through the month of May, which does include, all the, several of the difficult decisions about if we continue employment with some teachers and others. So it does list all of those for your public record in your review. Grant reports, Ms. McKinney, still continues to seek out a lot of grants. A lot of her focus is on school safety, trying to secure additional grant money so we can extend and enhance our safety measures and what's out there for us. And then, anytime anything comes across her radar that she thinks matches our goals and our mission and vision, she always at least researches those, and anything that looks like it matches us, she pursues those. And that right now is all of those announcements and updates.
Thank you, sir. Okay, next, if I can get a motion for consideration of consent agenda, please.
Motion.
We have a second discussion. Let's vote, please, Jennifer.
Voting second. All agree.
Thank you. Okay, next in our discussion presentations. First is their school year 24-25 board meeting calendar. Mr. Boyd, I'll let you summarize that.
There was discussion at the workshop about, we put together a draft and put it in front of the board members just for guidance on any dates that you might have questions or concerns about. We've made those adjustments. There was specifically one statement about October 31 would not be a preferred date for a board meeting, so we have rescheduled it for the 29th. That's in the calendar, so you'll see that there. The meeting date's October 29th for that month. And it's actually the November meeting because of some other conflicts that first week of November. But that's for your consideration for approval, and then if it's approved, we'll begin reading that publicly and send it out to all of our principals and others.
Do we have a recommendation on that?
I'll make a motion, we approve the 24-25 board meeting calendar.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Discussion. Let's vote, please, Jennifer.
Voting second. All agree.
Thank you. Mr. Boyd, approval of the revised boundary line at Grandview Elementary.
Yes, there was, as the county's trying to sell property that has a boundary with Grandview, there was I guess in the title search, there was some question. It's been resolved, and I thought we had an agreement with all of the final language in it, but they sent back, they being the county attorney, has sent back with some revisions, but the revisions aren't anything that I would consider material, and I recommend approval of the addition of the language.
Do we have any recommendation on the boundary lines?
I make a motion that we approve the revised boundary line agreement at Grandview Elementary.
A second.
Discussion. Let's vote, please, Jennifer.
Voting's open. All agree.
Thank you. Next is our 5-year educational capital project plan for the year 25 through 29.
Heath, would you pull that up on the screen, please? This also was brought up at the county commission meeting. It was mentioned that they were waiting on the board to send them the 5-year plan. You know, I tried to be diplomatic and remind them that they have our currently approved 5-year plan, and we know we must live within the established amount of money that's been in there. We did not anticipate they would give us any more money. So I did adjust from the workshop we discussed. This draft, the changes from the workshop to now is I put in the new penny rate, the penny value, and it calculated across the 5 years of the plan. The items, as far as the expenses, there's one expense that I did pull out, and mainly because it put us in a significant deficit. It was the additional funds on line number 7. You know, we have approval for the $3.5 million that has not been expended yet, so that carries over and will be in this fund balance to be utilized when we do. But we had an additional $1 million there, and as we discussed at the workshop, I pulled that out just because it put us in a deficit all the way across. Something we can continue to discuss with the county commission as we move forward. But to make it all balanced and keep it consistent with, in line with the currently approved 5-year plan, but then some modifications. And just as a reminder, the modifications that we made, we added the technology, the campus safety and security amounts. And you'll see a change there too. We had it at $250,000 each year. My rationale there was, and again, it was try to remain so that there is not a negative balance at the end of any year. I thought that if we did 2 years consecutive and then 2 years off, then that essentially means we can plan a project that might cross over multiple fiscal years, and that'd be $500,000 to address those kinds of needs. And then we'd have 2 years where we would not be doing that work through these funds. And then the intent would be we would roll into another 2-year period as we get into the 5-year plan. So that the only change was I took the $250,000 off of the fiscal year 27 and 28. I left the playground, and now this is something that could be modified, you know, because we have, for the most part, addressed all but a handful of the playground upgrades, and you know, those should be good for a few years. But I left them in there because in addition to playground equipment, there are other things on school grounds that we can certainly plan and have that would, you know, needed to be updated and renovated, that would, you know, for student use, that we can have conversations about that. So I just left those $300,000 in each of the fiscal years. Then you go down to the bottom, it may be hard to see, but line 14 is the boiler that we discussed, just an upgrade. And I tried to make a note. It was originally listed in past plans at 120, but with increased costs, we've increased it to 150,000. And then, of course, all the way down the campus property, those are scheduled. We want to develop a schedule to update and repair parking lots, sidewalks, curbing. So we'd have to schedule it out. And the same thought process here. I started, you know, I took the 250 out of FY 26 and 7 with the idea that we would do it, you know, start this year, and then we would then get into a 2-year rotation on and off with the 250. And the big item is, and something that's immediate, we did add that $500,000 for the re-roofing of the annex building at Crockett. And then 2 years later, you know, we have to do the big project of the main building re-roofing, and that's a pretty significant estimated cost there, $3.5 million. as well as the Asbury roof. It's much less than the Crockett roof. But other than that, this is what we looked at, besides the changes that I have just went over. And just as for your reference, you see I've marked through the new Jonesboro KA payment and the Johnson City Schools Capital Funds payment and the Jonesboro lease increase that we were notified of. And that $3.1 million, almost $3.2 million, has been moved or is intended to be moved out of educational capital funds into the debt service fund, and the pennies will follow. And those, in the new penny value, that's 5.79 cents that they're going to take and put into debt service for those expenditures. And that leaves us with about 5.34 pennies annually. And the starting amount with the new penny rate is $546,950 per penny. That's how we calculate the 2.91 million annually for the fund.
That just blows my mind what the pennies was today.
It was, property values in this area, obviously an amazing increase in value. It's the last assessment.
And the commission, 30 cents tax increase.
I'll make a motion, we approve the 5-year education capital projects plan for official year 25 through 29.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Discussion. Let's vote, please, Jim.
Voting is open. All agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, need approval for the general FY24 general fund budget amendment, please.
Mr. Hale?
So this is a regular year-ending amendment where we true up the lines, and then we've had a lot of things we purchased this year that we said we would amend. So I did not bring my computer up, just figured we could pull up the general fund amendment here, the top one. So this is the template itself. That is the shaded column in the center is the current budget that's in effect. And then the white column, 23-24, is any changes. So when you see a number without brackets, that's an increase to the line. When you see a number with brackets, that's a decrease to the line. Majority of this is grant funds that we're adding several grants. The ISM grant, that's nearly a $7 million grant. Granted, we won't spend all of that by June 30th, but there's a lot of that that's still out there in play. All of the summer school grants, about almost $1 million. So I've added each one of those lines. There's the public safety grant and a couple other small grants. The rest of it would be a combination of things you voted to purchase, and we said we would amend the budget. And then when there's just some lines that just didn't sync up just right, so I had to true those up for audit purposes. So for most of you will know this, but what you approve here does not affect next year's budget. This is simply a cleanup, a true up for this year, so it has no effect going forward on anything you've seen. Now there's some other documents that I'll reference if you go back to that other screen where I had the other. So those documents that you see there, so we don't have to pull those up yet, but for example, the one that says grant ISM, that's that nearly $7 million grant that goes through the general fund. You can click on that and look at all the details, every single line, and that's as approved by the TDOE. And every one of these is like that, the public safety grant, and then the summer learning camp. I want to say out of memory, that's $842,000, and then you have summer transportation. You can click on those as each board member and look at the detail of everything on that grant. Now on the detail, that's just a summary. Maybe download that one file there, the 141 fund year end budget detail. This is just for your reference, but at least I'll show you what that is. This mainly just summarizes it, and that accounts for probably 95% of everything in that grant. That's a lot. I mean, that's a lot. They're just the grants, it's about $8.4 million that flows through the general fund. Anything not on there would be miscellaneous lines that didn't sync up right, that I had to take some out of one, put in another one just to sync them up for year end. I just wanted you to see that document, but that gives you the detail and then the revenue line numbers. So when you see the revenue coming in, that's budget neutral. So even though we're adding the expenses, we're adding revenue to match it, because if we do in fact spend that, we're going to get reimbursed 100%. So any of these that are not fully expensed, I shouldn't say any, the ISM grant specifically, that's the big one, it carries forward into next year. These summer learning grants were 1 year at a time, so we will probably spend most of that, but any that we don't spend, we'll have grants next year, assuming the state keeps that up, which I'm sure they will. Some of those are small. You can see the insurance reimbursement, solar fund panels, or that we got for that win. So I just wanted you to see that as a reference. But we can go back to the main budget document now. So you can start slowly going down to the pages there. And we're in the revenue section now. So and we'll just keep going down each page there. There you'll see some of those revenues starting to be added, and the new total to the right. Just keep going through all the pages slow. And now we're starting to see that's the summer grants, there's the ISM grant, the public safety grant. That's where revenue is being added for the budget, and then the new budget in total. And as we keep going, there's something that I'll point out to you. It'll be on the next page. Okay, right there. That is your undesignated fund balance usage. Now remember that stadium that's almost $5 million is in that number, which we know it's not going to be expensed at all by June 30th. The county's still on their component. So that just goes forward to next year. But your new budget, amount is from $100 million up to $109 million. Now again, I just told you $5 million, it's not going to be expensed, it'll just go to next year's. But that is your actual budget amount, revenue and expense. But I just wanted to point out your undesignated fund balance did not change. So all of this is budget neutral. As we keep going, you don't have to maybe go as slow, but now we get into the expense side, the next like 10 or 11 pages. All of those in the center, positives are adding, brackets are deducting from the lines. A lot of those that you just saw was that CTE grant on that last page. But the new total on the right column, and when we just keep going like this onto the bottom page. And again, about 95% of this is grants. I mean, just true adding those. But when you get to the bottom, or the last page, you'll see that same number, the old approved number of 100 million. There we go. And then the new budgeted amount of 109 million. Of course, it syncs back up on page 3 where revenues balance. But that's a high-level overview.
So Brad, just to point out, and you went through all the grant funds, several $1 million with the grant funds. In the 71300 line, I mean, there's a huge amount from 120,000 to 1.6 million to add. That's through the grants.
That is
correct?
the ISM
Yes.
grant. That
For instructional
71,300 category is specifically CTE.
Yes.
So that grant that's almost $7 million, not all of it, but most of it went into that category.
Yeah.
So, and that's back on page 4, I think, if you want to back up to page 4.
That was just a large
Yes.
amount, but it was grant supported.
Yeah.
It
Keep going
flows
down
through
a little.
that line item for expenditure.
There you go. So this is the 71,300 category at the bottom, and keep going down slowly. Every bit of that is ISM grant funds that are being added. We know all that's not going to be expensed by June 30th, but there is probably $2 or $3 million that has been or in process. There is a lot of purchase orders outstanding right now with the ISM grant. So very beneficial grant that we're receiving. And again, not all of it went in that category, but I bet 89% of it did. So, yeah. But you've got the detail of that ISM grant with the other documents I referenced a moment ago, where you can see every dime of it, every penny, every line of where it goes. And match that up if you choose to do so. But for your approval, then we'll, in the past, we don't have to go through Hugh Committee for this end of the year. They'll let us go straight to budget, straight to commission, and then once the commission approves this, I'll be able to go in and modify our budget and our financial system to match. And ideally, everything proves up.
Ms. Waters?
Make a motion that we approve the fiscal year 24 general fund budget amendment.
Second.
Discussion? Let's vote, please, Jennifer.
Voting's open. All agreed.
Thank you. Okay, next is our federal application. Mr. Whitaker, you want to go over that part, or
Anything you want
or anything you want
to
to?
highlight?
The only thing that I would say would be about, we did take a little bit of a cut, about 5% cut in our funds. So that's in the Title I. Okay. Everything else. I mean, other than that, that's all I have to say. We did cover one.
And Mr. Whitaker, that impacted, some schools in the Title I funds that went to the schools. It reduced some of their available funds. And they had to make some decisions about, in some cases, personnel.
Yeah, expected four people.
What schools was that?
South Central, Lamar, Boones Creek, and Westview.
All low funding, or what is it? What would the word be?
Title I.
Title I,
Yeah,
low.
these are Title I funds,
Yeah.
and they are they receive Title I funds because of their poverty
Yeah.
level, their socioeconomic level.
Poverty schools.
And with that reduction, it impacted the funds that they have access to.
We have a recommendation on the federal.
I'll make a motion, we approve the FY25 consolidated federal application of budgets for fiscal year 2025 and for all subsequent amendments.
We have a second.
Second.
Discussion. Let's vote, please, Jennifer.
Voting's open. All agreed.
All right, thank you. Next is our SY 24-25 supplements. Mr. Boyd.
Yes, sir. That conversation we had and the policy adjustment that you made, previously in policy, you listed a lot of procedures in this table, and you just added the line in your policy that annually you will approve the supplement schedule, and this is a supplement schedule with the recommended, or the motion that was approved was to add a 5% to each of these supplements. As you can see, Brad's demonstrated, he's shown the increase. As just a quick example, what was $1,600 supplement for baseball, middle school baseball, with a 5% increase is $1,680. So the new supplements are all there on the far right. The one change and I shared with the board, there was a supplement in there for athletic director. We restructured their salary scale, put them on their own salary scale, and so that actual supplement has been pulled out of the supplement package.
Mr. Walters.
Make a motion that we approve the coaching supplements for school year 24-25.
Have a second.
Second.
Discussion.
Question. To your recollection, when's the last time these were raised? Other board members remember, or?
Brad, do you know anything since you've been here?
The current amounts were in place when I arrived, but it had happened not long before I got here, because the policy when I got here reflected a lower rate than the actual supplements. And about 5 years ago, we brought that to the board since Dr. Flannery was here, and we changed the policy with board approval to match up what we were really paying, because when I arrived, we were paying a higher amount than the policy said we were supposed to pay. So I was told it happened a few years before I got here. I've been here 7 years, so it's probably about a decade ago.
Yeah, I just wanted it to be known that this isn't something that we do every year.
No, it certainly has been at this level for many, many years until this this increase. And 5% percentage-wise is large, but as you can see, as far as when it translates to dollars, it's, you know, it's an upward move and it's an improvement, but it's not a tremendous increase in where they were 5-10 years ago.
Some of you may know it as stipends rather than supplements too. Same thing.
And these people work hard and put in a lot of time.
And they're not doing it for the supplement.
No, I mean, the majority of, if not all of them, that's just part of it, but it's not why they do it.
Right.
But, you know, they deserve to at least have fair consideration for compensation.
We appreciate it.
I'd love to figure out what the hourly rate would be, how much they're getting per hour that they put in.
Any more discussion? Let's vote, please, Jennifer.
Voting's open. All agree.
Thank you. Next is our salary/wage schedule. Ms. Boyd.
Well, just to preface this, you know, including the supplement increases, those are all pending approval of the FY25 budget, as it's been approved by the board and submitted to the budget committee and approved to pass on to the full commission. So with that said, you know, assuming that ultimately is approved, these salaries have reflected changes in that budget, in our proposed budget, with the increases that you've approved, and it's all of the pay scales for all categories of employees.
And as soon as these are voted on, they'll be on our website.
Yes,
Okay.
with the understanding of their pending approval of the
Right.
FY25 general
Yes.
purpose school budget. Yes.
Right.
Ms. Boyd.
In the past, we've waited until the commission
Yes.
approves it, didn't post it.
Otherwise, we need
Right.
to plaster all over those
Yeah.
schedules that it's pending
Yeah.
FY25 approval of the budget.
And when will this be brought to the county commission? What meeting? Do you know?
20th.
20th, okay.
You know, the 13th is the around the tax levy, the
Right.
public comments, and then they have scheduled on the 20th to vote on the budgets.
So June 20th is when the commission will hopefully approve all this. So, Mr. Walters?
I make a motion that we approve the 24-25 salary wage schedule.
Second.
Discussion.
Do we need not to rethink this a little bit and ask for more money to help, instead of us using our fund balance? Let the county commission, you see what I'm saying? Let the county commission come up with the money to pay the
So you're saying, in
wages.
other words, you let them balance it with their money rather than our fund balance balancing. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
that's a funding issue. This is, you know, the board has approved the budget. Now, how those funds are appropriated is still yet to be up to the commission. Unless you want to change the decisions you've made with the increases that you had, you know, really, that's separate. I mean, it drives the need for the funds, but, so unless you want to change the needs for the funds, really voting on these schedules is a different conversation than the funding.
Well, I'm just, you know, it's another issue or another way, 30-cent tax increase and nothing for the schools. So I support whatever this board feels like they want to do, so.
Mr. Hellstone?
After we using that money in the fund balance, what actually percentage-wise are we having left? I know they talk about 16% is, I've heard, is the ideal amount. When we start getting, well, of course, you get worried a little bit quicker than we do sometimes. Where is that putting us this time after tapping the amount that we're tapping?
So we won't know what the actual fund balance usage is until after June 30th. I'll know an unreconciled and unaudited amount shortly after June 30th, but it takes the auditors a couple of months to go through all the books, and they sometimes do have large true-ups. When you say 16%, is that 16% of revenues or 16% of operating expenses?
Thought it was 16% of operating.
So if our budget is 90 million, well, let's just use even numbers. If it's a $100 million budget,
Right.
then that's a $16 million fund balance that you would want to keep.
Which we won't have.
It's going to depend, we know the 5 million in the stadium renovations won't be expensed by June 30th.
Right.
It's going to depend on where the final numbers come in. Out of a $100 million budget, if we're 2 or 3% under our expenses, that's $2 or $3 million. We know the sales tax, we weren't allowed to budget what we knew we were going to get.
Mhm.
So if we bring in 2 million, or in this case, probably 2.5 million more than the budgeted sales tax, that means it's going to help our fund balance by $2.5 million if you compare it to what was budgeted. So there's a lot of moving parts to tell you exactly where we think. Yeah, I have a guess, but after June 30th, I could probably give you at least a better educated guess on where that is.
Maybe something we can think about for next year too.
Well, I mean, I've seen this for a long time, so they always want our budget 1st of May. Is that when it was wanted? They wanted it
Based on the rules they've established, it's
Yeah.
to be to the mayor by May 1st.
And here we are looking at what they done the other night, so.
I would add to the danger of changing something now is if they don't approve it, we have no time to get them anything, so that means nobody gets raised July 1st. We go to the continuing resolution.
Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, I understand, I know exactly what you're saying. They just,
You know,
they got us.
well, it's very, you know, but the board has been in a very good position and has been able to use your fund balance to schedule, you know, to utilize it to fill that gap for operational funds. But, you know, it does get depleted, and I believe in next year's budget, well, I strongly believe in next year's budget, this board won't have that option. Without additional revenues.
Correct.
So it'll be a different conversation next year. And probably every year thereafter. But, because we don't have really the ability to replenish the fund balance that has been in place before. But as Brad said, we still are very fortunate in this area that the sales tax revenue that we do receive, there still is growth. And so that's what he mentioned, we might, you know, they don't let us budget 100% of what the true sales tax revenue is that we're allocated. So there is that amount above that, and it's pretty solidly going to be 2 to 2.5 million probably
For this year, I believe
this
that's
year.
correct.
So that will, you know, that'll help the fund balance, but in the future years, it's probably going to get tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter.
Okay, any more discussion? Let's vote, please, Jennifer.
Voting's open. All agreed.
Thank you. Next, we have the Lewis Group here, Todd and Ginger. Whichever one or both wants to start. Thank you all for coming, but monthly reoccurrence.
Yes, we actually wanted to give you an update on, I don't know if many of you have been able to look at the sites. This was on May 30th. This is at the Daniel Boone location. So just a progress of where we're at. That's the integral block, and then where the dark block's gonna go, that's where the glaze break is going. And at Boone, the grandstand assembly should be starting, being put together next week. And at David Crockett, it should be July 10th. And you can see on that other picture, they have, the roof framing is up already. And then this is the progress at Crockett right now.
When did you say the stadium would be delivered? Is it going to be delivered at one time or in pieces or?
It's going to be delivered at one time, and they have allotted, the bleacher team has allotted a number of days to pull it together. Because it's prefabricated and there has been a lot of coordination already. So they'll come in and they'll do Boone, and then they'll come in and they'll do Crockett.
My only concern is, and I'm sure that you've worked it out, by Boone's schedule, we got an extra month. But with David Crockett, they do not,
So that's part of we're all very aware, and we're all keeping that in mind. Part of the plan is to, once the bleachers are in place, Burwell's gonna look at how to move their team, and they're gonna make Crockett a priority.
Okay.
And they just happened to tell me that they had another job that fell through, and they had a masonry team working, an extra masonry team. So I think they know that, so we've been pushing through to make sure that all is ready for the first game.
Are they on schedule? They appear to be on schedule?
Yes. So far, everything has been on schedule. Let's keep it that way. And then
I think they said it was 20 days, right? 20 days.
per assembly.
Per assembly.
And they're gonna be delivered when?
Next week, the 10th,
The 10th.
that's what it's scheduled for Boone. And July 1st is what they have scheduled for Crockett.
Exciting.
It is.
Very.
Just curious, will they install that with cranes, I guess, or? I've never seen anything like that.
I haven't either, and that's why I'm planning to come by, because I would like to see it too. I'm really excited, and I would think it would take longer, but they do this all the time, so I'm assuming they have a system already.
Because I'm sure it's gotta be shipped in pieces, and it's gotta be assembled,
Yeah,
you know, but.
yeah, and they had already somebody from their team come by and coordinate with Burwell, so I know there has been communication and scheduling, so, I mean, Southern Bleacher does this often, so I'm sure that they have a system, but, yeah, hopefully I can bring you all some update next time I come by, so you can, maybe I'll try and get a video or something.
Lots gonna happen in the next 30 days.
Yes,
We're gonna have a place to go to the bathroom and a place to buy a pop.
that would be the intent. That's why we're trying to concentrate on Crockett first, so that everything by that game can be ready. And then if there's like little things I need to have in a Boone, just finishing touches, that can be happening while the first games are happening at Crockett.
You know, maybe sometime in July, we could possibly schedule a walk-through before a meeting. Maybe all of us go at Boone, because I think maybe a little further ahead.
Yeah,
Just actually put our eyes on it, you know, where they're at, so.
I think that would be a good idea. It's a different experience also to be there and see it.
Who's
got the first home game, Boone or Crockett?
Crockett.
Crockett.
Boone's first 3 or 4 is away. And Crockett's first 3 or 4 is at home.
That photo right there, the structures that will be underneath the bleachers, I was told by the contractor, the roofing contractor will not complete the roofing until all of the structures above it are complete. They didn't want to risk something falling on the membrane, so it'll be framed in and ready, but it will not receive its final membrane or its roof until the bleachers, over them are complete.
Is that wiring, does that have to be sprinkled or anything like that?
No sprinkle.
No, they'll have all that done, it's just the roofing membrane.
None of the wiring will be done because the roofing is not in place, right?
No, they'll have the roofing in place, they just won't have it finished with the membrane. It's a low sloping roof, and it's gonna be a membrane, I guess EDPM or something.
Yeah.
And it'll be installed after they complete the structural work above it, so that something doesn't fall on it and
Won't
damage the
damage it.
membrane.
Yeah.
That's right.
But all the planks and everything will be installed. And it should be somewhat protected from weather, because it's, I mean, it might not be done, but it's still under a structure.
Yeah. And after showing those, I wanted to go through the items that we talked in the workshop, which I'll go through again to make sure everybody understands. And then we have an additional item that we were able to get, so I'll go through that one as well. Item number 1 was the softball field light pole relocation at David Crockett High School. And this had to do with an existing light pole that is on the softball side. And it was brought up to our attention, because it seemed, just by approximation, that it might have been towards the center of the boulevard. But as of the last OAC that we spoke with Burwell, it was confirmed that it is very close to where we have it in our drawings, which is like between 2 and 3 feet. It was never an intention to move it, because it's not really in the middle of the boulevard. So we were recommending of not approving this PCO unless you guys have any ideas or any suggestions or questions. There was a concern about driving, but the way we are showing the diagram, it shows that the promenade has a pavement right there adjacent. It's an existing pavement. You could potentially drive through there and get into the promenade if you need to drive.
Do we have any pictures of that?
If you scroll down, there should be a sketch at the bottom. Scroll down a little bit. Yeah, there it is. So you have, that's the light, where it says the 2.4 is the distance of the edge to the center line, and it's a 10-foot promenade. And then it extends, where we could, we extended it. And that's the dark gray is the pavement, and that's already there. That's where we have the, if you go to Crockett, it has the Crockett symbol on it. So that's potentially, if you needed to, that's
Use
what
the
you would drive
pavement to
through.
get around.
Mhm. If needed.
And that was, what, 13,000 or something?
That was
34,000. Yeah.
34,788 and 60 cents.
Good savings.
And that's what we were thinking, that just considering, you know, where the contingency is depleted, at $35,000 being something that is an aesthetic change and not
Right.
something that is necessary to construction, that's what we're recommending.
It's money for something else.
So we never originally budgeted that amount for that purpose.
No.
This would have been all extra.
We
Correct.
will need a motion to approve or not to approve, if we could, please, on
You want that
this
now?
one, please.
I make a motion that we disapprove or not approve item 1, moving the pole out of the promenade.
We have a motion,
At Crockett.
we have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Discussion.
Just to clarify, it's not a savings. It's not,
just a
it's
not
not
added
approving an
expense.
additional
Right.
expense.
Additional.
So, and then after it was verified that the location was not in the middle of the promenade, that could have been worth a consideration for moving, but where it is located, it really, I think your motion to not approve is certainly very reasonable and logical, and a necessary expense.
Any more discussion? Let's vote, please, Jennifer.
BOE Meeting. I'll agree.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Ginger?
Okay. Item number 2 is the footing undercut at Daniel Boone High School. I have gone back and spoken with Burwell and Folded too. So what has happened is that if you remember at Crockett, we had really bad soils everywhere, and that's what we spent like $180,000 on it. What they did is that we had already paid $62,000 at Boone previously on a PCO. And their plan was, since there were some good soils, was to undercut, instead of undercutting all the way down to the bottom of the footing, like they did at Crockett, just undercut to the top of the footing, and then from there, go on a case-by-case sort of testing to see where they could save money and where they could not. And that's what the $30,979 with 35 is coming from, is the work from that leftover footing work, I guess. And it would have total, if we put it all together, to $100,138. And the way it was made that way was in order to save money so that it wouldn't be the same price as Crockett. And there is, we did get reports from the engineers that did, indeed, that's a third-party engineer, and they did indicate where areas have failed. And we did ask the question as to why the PCO had not been brought up before. And they did mention that they didn't have all of their receipts to be able to give us a complete amount. So after they received that, that's when they sent it. And we are recommending this one to be approved because this is something that was done for construction and in an effort to be efficient on the undercutting for the soils.
Is this in addition to the amounts already paid for stabilizing the soils?
Correct. So the way it was done, we paid, when I say we, I mean you guys, but the initial PCO was the $62,000, and that was for undercutting to the top of the footing. After that, they went back, and the $37,000, this one is for going back and doing the spots where the soil had failed.
Rather than undercutting all the way to the bottom.
Of the footing.
So it was a cost-saving measure, rather than to go all the way to the bottom, was to go to the top and then just take individual tests, because there were some good soils, but then there were some bad soils as well. So this was a different approach to try to reduce the cost savings.
So how much was the initial price to replace the soil?
60.
The first part was 62,000. That is the initial work, which included just undercutting to the top of the footing.
So you're saying that they went in there and they cut down to the pot where the top of the footer is, and you've got, and then they're going out there and they're testing where each one of the pylon or purlins is going to go? Is that what they're testing?
They're testing the area where
And
the
if
foundation's
it's
going to
good
go.
there, they're passing it up, going to the next one?
Correct. The PCO has the report for the engineers, and he has their, the areas where they tested and the spots where they tested.
Junior, do you have the picture like you showed us in the workshop for Keith to look at?
Unfortunately, I do not on this
Okay.
one. I had it on the workshop, I'm sorry, Keith, because I know you missed
Well,
that.
I mean, Lord of mercy, people. If it's,
We could have undercut all the way to the bottom, but it would have.
but
more
they got it,
expensive.
it was good enough right there at the beginning of it where they undercut it, and now they nitpicking on out here and going to the next and to the next. That soil ain't that bad 10 foot away.
So what they've done is at Boone, they cut it all the way down,
At Crockett, they
and then
cut
at
it all the way
Crockett,
down.
they cut down to the top of the
No,
footer.
it's the other way
The other
around.
The other way around.
It was more expensive.
But
at
they saw
Crockett.
how much money was being spent at the one location and was
Correct.
trying to save money at the second location.
Yes, and they knew that Boone had some good, definitely
Right.
better soils, because there weren't any tires on the ground, so they knew that Boone had better soils.
Right.
So what they did is
But they
they go
cut
all
it.
the way to the
Boom
top.
first.
Yes, and they cut the top, and then they did the spot testing to see, do we need to undercut and spend the labor and material on all of the foundation, or do we need to do it in certain spots? And like I said, this is a third-party engineer, so it's not like verbal limited testing, it's a third-party testing.
So where the soil was bad, they undercut it and filled it with good soil.
Correct.
Okay, so this way they didn't have to do every footer, they just did the ones that showed up bad.
Yes, and
Okay.
instead of 180, it was
Right.
100 in total. But
So
not-
we're good on the soil.
Yes, no
Even
more
the ones that
soils.
failed, we're good now.
No more soils.
Okay, all right.
And they've done this work
Yes,
already.
the work has been done, and the
To
question
stay
was.
on schedule.
Yes,
So it would have costed us, another $60,000 if they would have undercut the other school all footers.
maybe more,
roundabout.
yeah.
Yeah, if you-
Likely it'd have been more than the 60,000 of this change order that they proposed for that work they did. It could be double, it could be, 2/3, but it would be more than what what the PCO, the change order reflects.
And this PCO is for $37,979.35. And since the work was something that needed to be done, and we do have the report from the engineers that have tested the soil, and we have their breakdown on the work, we are recommending that it is approved.
Mr. Wallace?
I make a motion that we go ahead and approve paying this PCO for the spot soil sample and replacement of the bad soil at
17.
Crockett, right?
Yeah, that's a
Boone,
good
sorry.
start.
Boone. Okay.
But just, go ahead.
We have a motion, we have a second. Hearing none, motion fails.
Question. What happens if it stays the way we just did and we do not approve it? Are we starting into legal problems?
I wouldn't know exactly, but I know that it was work performed.
So
But
for further clarification,
yes,
this was work done after the soil was compacted and replaced, before they did the footers, correct?
They did the initial undercutting, and then they did the testing, and then the spots that needed to be fixed, I guess. That's when they went back and did all of it. But again, there was work being done and receipts getting made until late. So we got the initial PCO, but we never got everything else until now.
The work is done.
Yeah. Could I second his motion?
Not failed.
It failed, he can remake it and you can, yes. It's up to this board or up to Vince or whoever else wants to make that motion, if any.
I don't think it's fitting that I make Robert remake it. I think somebody else needs to at this point. Mine failed, so I just feel like that's good business.
Well, my argument is whoever's fault it is, they should have come to us right then and there when they found the soil's bad and said, we got this problem.
I understand.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, this is, and we're going back 3 months ago,
Yeah.
and that's wrong.
And they should have
I'm
told
sorry,
you,
that's wrong.
and there should have been some communication, but at the same time, this is work that needed to be done.
Well, I ain't saying that it don't
Right.
need to be done. I seen it. I seen what it was.
Right.
But we should have known right then how much it was gonna cost before we ever,
They didn't have the numbers though, that's part
well, I
of the
know,
issue.
they was getting it from,
And it's work that had to be done, so we're paying a bill versus talking about
you're
communication.
paying, yeah. I ain't gonna say what's on my
I
mind.
mean, it's not right that they didn't communicate with us, but that doesn't mean that the work didn't need to be done, and that doesn't mean that we didn't save money by doing it this way.
Well, this compaction, you know, if you're looking at far from here to that table right there and that dirt's rotten, no. You can look at it and see if it's bad.
Well, I would trust the engineer report.
Well,
That's why
that's
they-
another thing.
that's why
You got a third engineer out here.
You want a third-party engineer because you don't want somebody from Burwell or somebody from, you know, you would like a third party.
This is a non-biased engineer.
Yeah.
I'd like to remake the motion that we approve the item 2.
We have a motion, we have a second.
I will second it.
Discussion. So if I'm hearing you right, they did one, they completely, and they didn't do the other because they didn't really want to waste, in a sense, more money till they found out what the problem was, if there was. Is that
Correct.
kind of what I'm hearing? They tried to save us money in the long
They
run.
recognized that there were better soils. And it wasn't all terrible.
Because I do remember the pictures at Crockett, I remember the tires and just the carpet and just
Yeah.
everything that they found when they dug the footers. So
Right.
And I think there, maybe what happened is that there's no question that it needs to be undercut all the way down. But if we can maybe save some money, I mean, I think hindsight, I understand that maybe they didn't communicate at the time, but it was a good decision the way they proceeded because it saved money.
Oh, and I'm kind of like Keith, I wish they would have told us when they started at Boone, we're not going to undercut all the way for that reason.
Right.
But there could be additional charges once we, I guess that's my only thought.
I understand.
And you think timing too had something to play?
I think that's why they didn't give us a number. I think maybe, I understand that it could have been somewhat communicated,
Right.
but I also understand that it's legitimate work that was done.
Okay, any more discussion? Let's vote, please, Jennifer.
Voting is open.
I know it's already done.
Item number 3 has to do with.
One no.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
But she just gave us the vote count, it did pass.
Okay,
So,
great. Item number 3 is another one that we consider more of an aesthetic change. And we, of course, pass the information along to you to make the decision. This would be 7,163.31. And I remember we had talked about that number and you did the math and it was 6,800. But it didn't include the 15% added from the contractor. So that would be the total. And Keith, for you, that you were not here in the workshop, that had to do with the underground line that goes across and then it goes up and feeds into every light that we have outside of the buildings. It's connected, it's sitting in the structure of the bleachers. And they brought up the thought of, do we go up one and then go overhead all the way through instead of having all those cables being able to be seen or being able to be tampered with. But you can see in that picture that the space between the building and the space between the base where that conduit would go up and across and up the column is not a lot of space. So again, considering the budget and not wanting to spend money if we don't need it, we're recommending that we don't approve it, that we not approve that.
Ms. Walters?
I make a recommendation, we disapprove item 3.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Say this.
Yeah,
Disapprove.
not approved.
Second.
All right, discussion, Mr. Eversole.
By leaving it this way and not approving it, is it posing any danger?
No, because
Anybody.
it'd still be within a conduit and it'll be behind the column, and what we'll try, our plan is to put it in between the web of the column, so it's out of the way. And there's no way you can trip. You can see in that picture, it'll be behind that base. You'll have to like stick your foot in there.
Just don't let a kindergarten kid get there.
They wouldn't be walking through there.
My only thought is on it, for a long term, if that wire is in the pole and we have a problem, we cannot get to it.
So,
Is that,
we can.
okay?
So it's exposed, but it's covered, it's an insulated conduit.
Conduit.
So it'll be in the webbing of the column, and we're not enclosing, we're keeping that metal.
That's what I'm
on the
saying,
column.
instead of being in the pole itself where you can't do maintenance if need to be, it will be on the outside of the pole.
Correct, yes.
You okay with that? With that?
Well, the motion is not to do it, so.
No, I mean leaving as it is.
Oh, I mean, that's,
Okay, no,
That means to leave it on each column.
Correct.
As
Correct.
opposed to coming up
Yes.
one column and then running
Correct.
the length of the bleachers.
Yes.
Probably
And-
have better accessibility to each one with it the way it is. And we're disapproving.
Yes. And Crockett actually, it's not at every column because we have different lights at Crockett. So it happens in every other column, I think. So it'll be happening in less places basically at Crockett.
everybody understand the motion?
Okay.
Any more discussion? Let's vote, please, Jennifer.
Voting's open. All approved.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Ginger, number 4.
Okay. Item number 4 has to do with David Crockett High School baseball lights. And this one is $80,801 with 49 cents. So when we removed the pole that is at first base, on the right of first, on the side of first base, that's the one that we were going to put together with the football light. The inspector, the Washington County inspector, did not want us to put 2 services into one pole. We also talked to our electrical engineer, and it seems that there were transformers on those poles. So this is fed to transformers outside of the pole, which is not very safe. So the plan was to go ahead and reroute it into a new transformer. Let me get that, hold on 1 second. And as of the 28th, when I went to the OAC and spoke with Burwell, they mentioned that Bright Ridge had given a transformer at no additional cost, so that the transformer would be big enough to, in the future, be able to light the entire baseball field, or if we want to, in the future, it seems like there was a plan to change the lights, it would have the capacity to carry all those lights together. So this includes the work. It's, it'll be the new panels, because we're gonna have panels for feed 1 and for feed 2, for both feeds. We'll have an box, the service from the transformer into the poles, and the conduits and the service runs. And of course, we are recommending that we approved it just because it's not only safer, but it has to be able to work. We need to do something. And I think at the end, it's also cleaning up what we have electrically at that stadium.
For future.
Yes.
Yeah, so there was some discussion, I guess, at some point in time in the future that you would do, there's some discussion of doing all the lights at the baseball field, right? And so what this takes into account is going ahead and doing that work, putting a transformer in that can handle all of the lights, although right now it will operate that half. And there's a pole on the third base side with a transformer on it that will operate the other half. If it went sometime in the future, you want to change it, that transformer will be able to handle the entire thing. You won't have to go out and buy another transformer or anything like that. And I guess through some of that research too, it was, Bright Ridge Utility that said they don't really like transformers on poles. And they were happy to see that would be removed in that area right there.
I think that might have been maybe why they were willing to help out too. And I think it came from Bright Ridge and our engineer that maybe the existing conditions are not exactly.
So that's the price difference is what you're talking about.
The 80,801, that is the total of the PCO.
Okay.
That does not include the transformer, because the transformer is free.
Okay.
So-
Bright Ridge is giving us the transformer.
So that, like on this one, it had 100, okay, I see what you mean. Well,
So go back to the picture with where the pole's gonna go.
So those are all existing.
They're already existing?
Yes, the only one that we have that is going to be the new one is the one that has the transformer that we took out because that's going to go with the football line. The rest of the poles are going to stay. What we're going to do is basically put the provisions electrically with the panels and the lines so that when and if you're ready to change the lights, that's already there. It's already all done. And feed 2, it just needed to happen anyways in order to be able to connect to that transformer.
and you recommend it?
Yes, we do.
This one says 115, so now it's 80,000. Where's 115? It's
That,
That could have been.
Jennifer said she thinks that was a typo on her part.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
You're talking about on number 2?
I'm talking about, yes, number 2.
Yeah,
All
it
right,
says
sorry.
115,590.09.
Yeah, that's what ours shows. Well, I make a motion, we approve DCO for the Crockett baseball lights and relocation of the poles for 80, I don't know, it's different than mine. What was it? You get it back up there.
But there it is.
80,801.49.
We have a motion, we have a
I'll
second. Now discussion. Hearing none, let's vote please, Jennifer.
30 seconds.
And I did have an additional PCO, and I'm sorry I wasn't able to prep you guys on this one, but we just got the numbers today. This is something that we had talked about. It was the site utilities at David Crockett, and we had the issue where we were trying to figure it out. Sorry.
Did you need to?
No, she just said
She announced it.
motion was approved.
Okay, I didn't hear that. I apologize.
So what we're trying to do is basically get the best solution to not avoid using a pump station. And Steve Wilson, our civil engineer, has been working with Berwell directly, and they came out, that's the final number, 42,791, and that includes sanitary sewer and stormwater.
And this is for Daniel Boone?
No, this is for the site utilities of Boone are
So
have
what are
already
you
been figured
doing?
out.
Okay.
What are you doing? What
So
is the?
So
They're
the
not
first-
using a pump.
No, no, we're carrying the line. There is an additional sanitary line we're carrying, and we're going all the way down to the existing, where we have the existing sewer connection at the very end of the parking lot. And I was hoping that, I wish I could show the plan. So the line is a little longer, and what the money includes is, we do need to do some things on stormwater on the left side, where we need a new basin to carry the water that is coming from the baseball field. The work on storm, it's very small, but the work on sewer is that we're tapping into the existing line that is across from where the existing concession is, and we're going all the way down to an existing sanitary sewer manhole that is all the way at the end of the parking lot. And they worked out the slope so that it would be
Gravity.
yes,
So gravity would take care of it.
right, instead of using a
Instead
pump.
of a pump.
Because that would be,
That was the whole thing.
That's what you
Get
had
away
said
from a pump.
earlier, wasn't it, Keith?
So they found
Yeah,
a new route
I
to
mean-
get there.
You've got the drain down there where the baseball drains in there.
Right.
And that's exactly where you're talking about going with that sewer line, right? To the parking lot down there on the lower end?
yes. And they did some camera work too, to make sure that what they had would not impede anything else, which is already included in that. So they did some research. And like I said, our engineer worked with them to make sure that everything worked okay. So, no pump.
So everything we already approved or disapproved is, you have a total on that? Not
I do
counting
know,
this
it'll be
one.
the 42 plus the 80
So we're
and then the
120
35.
About 125,000 so far, right?
We are over 25 already. So it's like 150 total?
155.
Yeah. So I was told by Burwell that they did need to order material because they would like to do the utilities before the bleachers come in. So I don't know if it's possible to vote on this one as well today.
Mr. Adams, you want to?
If I could ask Mr. Bailey to scroll on down, I've been in touch with Burwell. That 43 was the initial number. It's actually less than that if you scroll right through there at the very bottom. That change order is 36,000. I can't read the rest of it.
That's a better
$36,200.
one because I got another one that said 50.
Okay, that's what Ryan Kazumi told me.
That's perfect then.
Today.
Perfect.
So we're at 155 plus the 36. Is that total? Is that what?
No. The 150 includes the 40, so I guess it'll be a little bit less, like 20 less. So we're 135 on that ballpark, over.
Over after we use our contingency. now.
Correct.
And this money will come from where?
Fund balance, because we're correct, Brad?
Ultimately, next year, we'll have to amend the 4.8 amount that's already in next year's budget. So whatever you add here tonight, we'll have to amend it next year and add it.
Mr. Ripp?
I'll wait till we're done.
Okay.
I got something.
Unless you have me pull it out of another category.
Mr. Walters?
I make a recommendation that we go forward with the paying of the PCS for the sewage system at Crockett.
Stormwater.
Stormwater.
For 36,250.
That's correct.
We have a motion, we have a second.
A second.
Discussion.
And they're sure that that's gonna carry
Yes,
all
because I know that was a concern.
the sewer,
Yeah.
sewage.
How much would a pump have added to that?
I don't know, but I knew it was going to increase the price quite a bit.
Okay.
Jared, you're positive that they have reduced that to 36 by what you know right now?
That was not following up right now, but that's what I was told today at about 11:30.
Okay.
And that includes all fees?
That's my understanding.
They put that in writing to you yet?
That was supposed to be it.
Well, too, and the board will keep in mind, the motion did state the amount of 36,250, so if it does increase, they will have to bring it back.
I do
Yeah,
have a
we'll have to amend
point.
it.
Do you think that the 36 is before the 15% or was that it?
It's the total amount right there.
Yeah, but I got that PCO from like Mix Out. And I got that one in the afternoon before we came here.
Well, we can do, we go ahead, if we want to, we can vote on that amount, and if it changes, then Auditor General one can bring it back to us, or Jared, either one, and if that number is different, then we can reevaluate it then if the agreement is with everybody on board.
So what was your figure? The 40?
The one that I have from the latest PCO is 42,791 with 19 cents.
Okay. But there it is, Whitney, 42,791.
Could we do it up to 43 and leave it open, or is that dangerous?
Dangerous.
Because
Yeah.
also, don't note that the end page, that is the amount of money, the change order for Brandon Moore, which is the people that are working with Burwell to do the work.
Yeah,
So they're
so
the
that's,
subcontract.
Jared's figure is prior to the fees, in addition to contract fees.
I really think.
That's what it looks like, because it's,
That amount of listed is 50 cents, $32,200.50. That was on that listing on that other page, so it obviously does not include the contractor fee.
just adding
it's gonna be
15% to that's 41,630.57.
So that's
Yeah,
gonna
it's
be
gonna
it.
be fees
So
because,
there's gonna be fees on
Yeah,
it, so it's
Brandon
gonna be the
Morris-
higher number.
yeah, and Brandon Moore is at sub for Burwell, so.
Well,
Mr. Waters, you want to restate your
I'd like to
motion?
restate my motion that we approve the storm
Well,
and.
if you want, who seconded that first one?
Ms. Dellinger.
You want to pull your second?
I'll pull my second.
Thank you.
I'd like to restate my motion that we approve the storm and sewer, work at Crockett for the amount of $42,791.19.
We have a motion, we have a second.
A second.
Any more discussion? Let's vote, please, Jennifer.
30 seconds. All agreed.
Thank you. Mr. Riddle?
If it's appropriate, I'd like to make a motion that we take all these extra expenses to the county commission for reimbursement.
Of the overage.
For these, the overages, and from this point forward, all overages.
We have the motion, we have a second.
I'll second that.
Discussion. Hearing none, let's vote, please, Jennifer.
Did you say moving forward?
This point moving forward on both projects.
To include this tonight,
To include these
All
four items.
overages from here on.
Okay.
This
These
and-
items
from tonight.
from
on.
tonight forward
Okay.
on both projects.
Sorry, I
Until
just trying to
completion.
clarify.
Correct.
30 seconds. All agreed.
Thank you. Y'all have anything else, or?
Yeah, I
Okay.
also wanted to update you on the security upgrades for the two high schools and let you know that we're scheduling a reconstruction meeting next week.
Sweet.
So we'll be getting started with that.
Awesome.
This week, scheduled
This
for
coming
this
week.
week, for next week, I
Yes.
guess? Okay.
Next Wednesday,
Yes, next Wednesday.
1:30.
That's correct. That's it. Thank you all.
Y'all have any questions for Todd Jennifer before they leave?
Lamar,
No, this is two high schools.
I know, I'm just saying.
Oh.
Y'all have any update on Lamar's? Okay.
And then the I'll say real quick on culinary, we had our pre-con meeting the 24th, and we sent a notice to proceed to Burwell for that project as well. Todd Morris is out of the country right now, so waiting to hear back when the exact start date is, but we're going to contact Ryan as well.
It's the
Make
same
sure
team.
he's aware so we can get the exact start date. They're aware that the owner wants to get started right away. So,
When do they think that
That's-
will be complete by?
actually, that's something we need to talk about probably at some point in the future for sure, could be right now. But in the contract, in their contract, it's stated that that is a, between the owner and the contractor, number of days. So we need to talk about, I'm sure everybody would love to have it done by the time school year gets started. There is an issue, and it's a small, it's an issue with switchgear. It's gonna need new switchgear, and we knew that going into it. And if you know anything about construction, that's about the one thing these days that's still lagging behind. So switchgear, getting a new switchgear is about 14 weeks. So we've given them the submittal and everything, told them to order it. And so that clock's is ticking. But what they're gonna do is they're gonna go ahead and go in and do all of their work up until that point where they need that switchgear. And then when that switchgear comes in, finish off the rest of it at that point.
How long ago has that been ordered, Todd?
It was just, we just got the submittal like 3 days
Okay.
ago. So we turned it right around quick knowing that it had a long lead time.
So we're worth looking roughly 14 weeks from this week.
Right. So that's what we're gonna be shooting for, so push them along though to get as much as they can get done while kids are not in school. And as we know, summers are a lot shorter now than they used to be.
Yeah.
So,
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
thank you very much.
Safe
Be
drive.
safe going home. Okay, next is consideration to award bid for printers and the CTE programs at Daniel Boone and David Crockett, funded by the ISM grant. Do we have any recommendation? Or Mr. Boyd, you want to add anything to that, or?
Now, I'm recommending, or ask that you consider approval. As submitted.
I'd like to make that in the form of a motion.
We have a
Second.
motion, we have a second. Discussion? Did you hold it?
I haven't pulled up so I can get.
Oh, okay. In total is $32,990.
That's group total.
And that's for the printers. There also is an amount for the supplies, the materials and supplies for those printers.
Okay, no discussion? Let's vote, please, Jennifer.
Voting.
Jennifer's ready to go vote?
All agree.
Thank you. Next is the MOU with Crossroads Christian Church for the use of the parking lot adjacent to Daniel Boone. I have been in contact with the deacon or with the church and Mr. Bennett and of course Mr. Boyd. We do have an MOU in place, but there is some questions on policy that Mr. Bennett is reviewing at this time. So until he lets us know more, it's kind of where we're at on that, so.
Just put it off until we take it.
Right.
You need a motion?
I'm just.
No action.
Okay, next is review of the bid specs on approval of the South Central Elementary septic system repair. Mr. Adams?
So Steve Wilson, our structural engineer, working in conjunction with TDET, provided us with drawings we looked at, and we've got a bid together. Basically, just tell them that, if they're interested, they need to contact the office so that we can send them a copy of the plans, because that's where all the specifications are located on those plans. We did designate that they have to be approved by TDET to do work like this. So we're just asking for permission to put it out to bid so we can figure out who we got to do it, how much they're going to charge us to do it, how quickly they can turn it around.
Okay. And the bid specifications, correct?
Right. They're in the drawings.
Okay.
I would ask in your consideration in view of the fact that the next board meeting is not until July 11th, I believe it is. If you would grant me the authority to discuss with the chair, and as the executive committee, we make a decision if the low bid is acceptable and authorize moving forward as quickly as possible if the low bid is acceptable.
Need a motion for that? So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Are they replacing all the fill lines and stuff down there? Is that what?
They're basically creating new ones. And the reason they want the pump is because they're afraid that it won't, that the fluid won't go where it needs to go, that it might go one way instead of all of them, so they're gonna use that pump to push it out.
Okay, any more discussion? Let's vote, please, Jennifer.
We don't have a motion.
Oh, we do.
Made a
Mr. Hammond made the motion and,
Does that motion need to also include releasing the bid?
It does.
It's a part of the motion.
as part of, yeah.
Okay.
Ms. Walters, second.
You send that out to us when we.
Yes, sir.
I mean, it'll be.
Yeah, we're ready. I'm sorry.
Voting. All agreed.
Thank you. Next is the renewal of property insurance, like, that you, Mr. Adams, Dr. Adams?
It is. I've been working with Mark Sizemore, our insurance agent. We just today got the numbers from Liberty Mutual, who we've had for the last 4 or 5 years. Talking with Mark, we can, if the board wants to, we can wait to try to get an idea of what Tennessee Risk Management would charge us for our insurance. But after talking with him, we feel comfortable in saying that Liberty Mutual will continue to be a cheaper option. They've been fine to work with. On this sheet, you can see this last year we paid $1,026,000, and our premium for the next school year, if we go with them, would be $1,181,000. So it's a difference of about $160,000, give or take. The insurance runs out July 1. So Mr. Sizemore was out, had a heart attack, and had a lot of trouble getting numbers from him. But this is what they delivered to us today.
In reviewing the information, my recommendation is the board consider approval.
And everything that we've turned in, they paid out.
Yes, sometimes with a little more encouragement than others, but yes, sir.
We've had a lot of claims in the last year.
I know, and that's what I'm.
The library, basketball courts.
We've recovered through those claims. We were able
Greenhouses.
to address, the issues.
They didn't drop us.
The initial, when we switched over, it wasn't like 500,000 difference between them.
Yeah, we saved about 500,000 when we switched over.
But
to
now
Tennessee
we're
Risk
getting
Management.
back to the point that it's about the same price as what probably.
What it was 5 years ago, I don't know, but I would assume Tennessee Risk Management has gone up somewhat commensurate with what everybody else is.
How long would it take us to find out what Tennessee Risk Management would do?
We talked to them today, and basically what they told us was every school system that they have insurance with, they're trying to get their things together for those people to re-up, and best they can do is maybe sometime late next week or the week after. But we don't have a board meeting
Right.
in between all that.
Right. Any recommendation from the board?
I'll make a motion to move forward with renewal of property insurance.
We have a motion, we have a second. Discussion?
I'd like to see us ask Tennessee Risk for next year before we get it pushed right to.
Well, the
And-
board has to make a decision prior to July 1.
Yeah, that's what I say, but
So you're-
next year.
You do have a workshop on the calendar the 25th of June. We can advertise in time for a special call meeting just to consider that item if we do get information from Tennessee Risk Management by that time. If you want to defer a decision until the 25th.
Keith, are you saying to defer it or asking them to look into it? next year before this.
Well, I mean, if
time.
we don't have to do it till June, yeah, I'm gonna ask, let's refer it. Let's wait till,
You put in that form of a
I
motion,
put that in the form of a motion.
amendment to the motion.
Yeah, well, let's just see. It
We
don't
have
hurt
an
to
amendment
ask.
to the motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
Discussion on the amendment?
I think it's just good to compare if we have time. I mean, we're pushed back.
Well, it'd be tight, but I mean, again, the fact is it's possible.
I think it's, yeah, I think it's a good idea for our employees just to show we looked at, both.
Any more discussion on the amendment? Let's vote, please, Jennifer.
The amendment carries with 2 noes.
All right, thank you. Now, we can vote on the motion as amended, please.
Well, what is that?
Thank you.
That's the,
We're not,
right.
we're waiting.
We're
till-
waiting until the workshop to see if he can bring us,
That's what I thought I voted the last time.
right.
Oh, these amendments.
I thought the amendment
I
would
did
be,
too.
I mean, it would be, it automatically would wait till the,
Would that be or no?
Well, you could have deferred, just not taking any action and just with the intent to call a special call meeting June 25th to consider action.
well, that'd be that's what I should have put in my motion in my amendment, right?
Or you can withdraw it.
Or you could withdraw your motion if you want to withdraw his and just make it clean and say defer.
Whitney?
Already voted.
Oh, we've already voted.
yeah.
Okay.
At this point, I think you need to proceed, but I'm sorry I didn't do a good job coaching.
Well, I mean,
It did pass. 2 noes.
We'll seek the information, and if I can, if we get it soon enough, of course, we'll distribute it to board prior to that meeting, and we will advertise for a special call meeting to consider that item.
Okay, next is consideration of extending the optical reimbursement program for all full-time employees. Mr. Boyd, I'll let you discuss that.
A request by Mr. Huddlestone for us to look at the cost of extending that benefit to all employees. It had previously been in a memorandum of understanding with the certified teachers through that process, but it did not expand to all employees. And what that benefit is every 2 years up to $135 reimbursed for eyeglasses.
and the cost of that is how much?
Don't know how many are gonna apply, do you?
The max, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I believe was 45,000 per year. Very small amount, maybe 15% is only utilizing that now. So assuming that percentage continues, the likely cost would be 15,000 a year. But it could be a max of about 40. I mean, it could all come into, if every single person waited for the second year, then it'd be 80,000 in that year, 80 to 85. I'm going from memory on that, but I'm pretty sure.
Mr. Huddlestone?
You want me to make a motion first or discuss why I'm in favor of it?
I think we need a motion in order to continue discussion, yes.
Okay, I would like to move that we extend the optical reimbursement program for all full-time employees.
We have a motion, we have a
A
second.
second.
Discussion.
When I came on the board a little over a year and a half ago, one of the things I did was a look at fringe benefits that both instructional and non-instructional are receiving. In the 3 school systems that I've worked in, they were always equal. Teachers did not, principals did not get more of a benefit than custodians, secretaries, cafeteria workers. And last year, we corrected one of those areas, and that happened to be in the area of disability. If a person does not have, then purchase the disability coverage, the least that they're going to get is $90 a week for 6 months. And that was available for certified personnel. We extended it to all the people, to all the full-time people. This is now the second facet of it, in that we only have our teachers and principals and certified staff receiving this $135 benefit. And I think it should be offered to all of the people. I know I've been in discussion with a couple questions to Mr. Hale and Mr. Boyd in regards to the cost. Last year, what we expended, I believe from what I looked at, about a total of $4,000 is all that got turned in. I don't know why, whether they're not aware of the benefit or they're not getting their eyes checked or whatever the matter is, because this is in addition to their vision coverage. If they purchase the vision coverage, this is in addition to it. But I would like to see the benefits be equal. I think it's, compared to what we're spending, it's a nominal sum. And I'd like to, that's why I put this forth before us to consider.
So this includes the exam and possible glasses or, you know, whatever after that. Whatever it
Correct.
covers up to 135, right?
Optical reimbursement, yes. Up to
Reimbursed. Well, of course,
135 for 2
most,
years.
yeah, if you get the exam and glasses, it's gonna be more, but that just, isn't it reimbursement? Yeah.
Because as of right now, if they do have optical insurance, if you get, as I do, specialized glasses with blended and reflective and all of that, you're going to go above whatever limit is on the insurance.
Yeah.
So they have the right to be able to then file for the additional $135. I just want it equal for all full-time employees.
How many employees we talking, Brad? Do you know any idea? That
Well,
could
not
take
every-
advantage of it, I
Yeah,
guess.
I mean, it's less than 50 for this year, this past year.
And that's teachers using it, just 50.
It's less than that, I'd have to pull that sheet up.
Well, many of them do take the optional, they buy into the optional vision plan.
Right.
That's provided, you know, access to, and they pay for that on themselves, but, so that could explain why they're not getting reimbursed, because there is a large number of employees that do have the vision plan,
Right.
over 500.
Any more discussion? Let's vote, Jennifer, please.
Voting second. Carries with 1 no.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is the few items that's been brought after the workshop. First one is review and consideration of the bid for the intercom replacement at Lamar Elementary. Mr. Boyd, you want to further explain any more on that?
Yeah, it's just, you know, a legacy system that is in need of replacement. We did plan for this, but this is, we just now have the bids in. And the low bid is $51,200. Well, recommend going with the low bid of $51,200.
Is that piece of equipment able to replace or fix, or parts available or anything? What I'm trying to say is,
It's new equipment, yes. The
But
other
is it-
equipment is legacy and could not find parts.
well, I know, but what I'm asking is, in a year's time, is that gonna be outdated? Or do we need to put the $89,000 one in there for something that will last longer than, you said, that's my question.
I do not, I mean, I do not believe so. I mean,
Okay.
meaning, I think there are some differences in the two products, but as far as longevity and availability of parts, I don't think that's especially in such a short term, a year, even 5 years, or probably even 10 years, I don't think that is an issue.
Is there a warranty that's included?
There's always a warranty. sometimes they're not really worth the paper they're written on, but there's always a warranty for these products. There's a lot of stipulations.
Right.
Brad, I see a line item attached to it. I take it it's already in the budget somewhere.
This was in the FY '24 budget.
Mr. Walters?
I'd like to make a recommendation that we approve and go with the low bid entered for the intercom replacement at Lamar Elementary using the line item.
Second.
Discussion.
Is that price installed or is that us installing it? Vince,
It's
Terry's
turnkey.
on all of it.
It's turnkey.
the company is?
Yes,
Looks
sir.
like they're doing everything except replacing the wiring.
Exactly, the wire's still good.
Okay, any more discussion? Let's vote, Jennifer, please.
Hogan, all agreed.
Thank you. Next is request for approval to release bids for a large format heat press at Daniel Boone High School.
This is anticipated to be an amount above the $25,000, so it does have to be bid.
Any recommendation?
What's the heat press? What is a heat press?
Is this for the graphic
It
arts
is, it's,
program at Daniel Boone High School?
Okay.
Press shirts and things like that.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we approve or release the bids for the heat press.
We have a motion, we have a second. Discussion? Let's vote, please, Jennifer.
Second, all agreed.
Thank you. Next, looks like we have 4 purchase orders. Can we group them? Is that okay?
Yeah, if the board chooses to do so.
If you want to go over each one, then if we could get a motion to group, it'd be great, unless somebody wants to pull one out separately.
Well, the first one is just curriculum materials. This is related to literacy. For the purchase is budgeted in the amount of $18,200. Item 9D, purchase order 2434. That's through a cooperative purchasing, and these are PCs for program use in the amount of $23,813.85. As is noted, it's through the Sourcewell contract, which is a national cooperative purchasing contract. 9E, sole source. This is also for the digital arts program. Multi-head embroidery machine. This may be, yeah, this is digital arts program for embroidery. You can see that listed there in the amount. And using ISM grant funds, which is the Innovative Schools Model Grant that we had referenced earlier in the meeting, $22,625. And then the final is furniture, and that's utilizing ISM grant at the request of the school, Daniel Boone High School, for the program.
Ms. Walters?
Make a motion that we approve purchase order 2429, 2432, 2434, and 35500.
We have a motion, we have a second. Second. Discussion? Let's vote, please, Jennifer.
Voting's open. All agreed.
All right, thank you. Only thing I have is just a couple of reminders. June 21st is our workshop at 5:30. July 11th is our July regular board meeting at 5. And please keep in mind our summer law in Gatlinburg, July 18th through the 20th. Other than that, oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Toadstone?
Yeah, I'd like to make a statement. I know the board meeting is concluded. For those that have come to know me, I react very slowly to things that bother me. I get angry hardly at all. But I couldn't let the board meeting go without a response to the county commission meeting last night. First, I want to commend our superintendent on the fine performance that he gave in being able to deal with the county commission and answering the questions. It was superlative. I'm proud to have him as our superintendent. I'm sure all of you are as well. I want to commend Jody Jones for being the person that recommended some additional 2 cents funding, albeit I don't know if I supported extra 2 cents, but at least she made her statement that some of that money should be going to our city and our county schools, and I commend her immensely. In response to some of the comments that were made by one of the commissioners, that the county commission has not let our school system suffer. I ask, since when has that been and should be the measuring stick of how successful our school system is, whether the children are suffering or not? I don't want to see suffering before someone takes action, and none of us here do as well. I think there's plenty of areas that could be upgraded by increased funding. I would love to see aides in all the kindergarten and first grade classrooms. We're so concerned about third grade test scores. The whole state is concerned about that. Where do those kids learn to read the earliest? And that's in kindergarten and in first grade. So yes, we could use money for that. We could use money to either fund ourselves or the sheriff's department to fund some extra SROs in the school instead of arming teachers. Teachers could use more money for supplies. Studies have shown well over $500 per teacher spending an additional supply money every year. More money to capital projects to increase and secure our schools, I think, is something that can be used. So establishing a measuring stick as suffering is not something I want to see done, and should not be a goal of a county commission. To another commissioner who talked about 52%, and that we just can't have basically more money going into education. I ran for this board, as all of us did here, to support our students in the school system. And I am never going to apologize for setting a dollar limit or a percentage limit and saying, that's enough. I mean, this is a problem that we deal with. I don't apologize to our governor. Our governor seems to be more concerned with vouchers than adequately funding our public school system. We continue to be in the bottom 10 states by recent standards as far as funding public education. I'm not going to ever apologize to asking the Senate members and the House members for additional funding. As long as I'm sitting here, and I'm sure you as well, our goal is for our students, and there's no 52% goal that we're going to stop at. Recently, our state senator, along with the Republican Commission, basically the legislature bragged about the additional money that they put in over the years into public education. Well, that's because we in Tennessee have been at the bottom group of doing it. So to say we've added a lot more money, good, it needed to be there and it needed to be more. So I don't really think that's something that they can brag about. I'll applaud them for a few minutes, but there's a lot more work to do. I just could not go without making some public response to that. Once again, I commend Mr. Boyd on what he did and how he did it. And I hope our commission will look at this once again to increase their funding to public schools.
Very well said, sir.
Very well said.
Okay, other than that, we will reconvene for our long-range planning work session after this meeting. Meeting adjourned.